The ABLP General Secretary registers her displeasure over comments made by Works Minister on radio. The Prime Minister refuses to accept what the US is offering in compensation as the WTO case drags on. The Vincentian Prime Minister confident his party will defeat a motion of no confidence filed by the opposition. And Volkswagen has taken responsibility for diesel emissions tests on humans and monkeys amid mounting fury. Thank you so much for joining us this Tuesday evening, 30th January 2018. Welcome to those of you who are joining us by radio and to those of you on Facebook Live. Also, welcome to those listening via our app and those via our website, pointefmradio.com. I am Phil George. The General Secretary of the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party has voiced her displeasure over comments made by the St. John's Rural South Member of Parliament Eustace Tico Lake that he had no involvement in a letter that he was withdrawing as a candidate in the upcoming general election. Lake took to Observer Radio last evening where he spoke on the issue, outlining that the letter was written by someone within the office of the Prime Minister and for which did not bear his signature. His appearance Monday evening has led to a reaction from Senator Mary Claire Hurst, who has expressed disappointment with Lake's utterances. She says the ailing MP is running contrary to his party's standards.
That is not the way our organization works, and he will fall in line. That is just a personal expression on a show where he probably felt the need to grandstand. I do not appreciate it because we do not operate like that in our organization. And if for any reason that is, what I can tell you is that Comrade Darrell Matthew has the full support of the constituency branch, full support. And so he's moving forward with that. Comrade Darrell Matthew has the full support of the executive and members of the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party, to include the leader. And so I do not like the idea that he's being pulled out on the Observer Radio or wherever. Another radio station could be ZDK Observer, wherever. But he understands that when the Prime Minister and the leader of our party calls him in, he will conform.
Senator Hurst opined that Minister Lake understood the circumstances under which he was being removed, and while it was not contained in a press release, discussions were held.
The leader of our party and Prime Minister of our country, the Honorable Gaston, indicated to Comrade Tico Lake that I understand your situation, I understand how you feel, but we will take care of you. And as long as the Antigua Labour Party administration is governing the country of Antigua and Barbuda, you will work. And I say to you, it is not an easy thing to be sidelined because, listen, everybody wants to be in power. He was a parliamentary representative. And we realized it was challenging to go on a campaign trail. It was. And we believe that in the best interest of our organization and his health, just think about us putting him out there and he collapses and dies.
The ABLP General Secretary is appealing to the Works Minister to endorse the man that will replace him. This, she says, will augur well for the party on a whole.
If Comrade Tico Lake campaigns against Comrade Darrell Matthew, or he does not endorse him as he says, and the Comrade Darrell Matthew loses the seat on that account, do you think the Prime Minister or the party would be able to assist Tico in terms of being a senator or in terms of going back to any one of the ministries? So it is just a matter of time when Comrade Tico settles down and realizes that in the interest of the party and that we believe in the empowerment of our people, the principles of good governance, the elimination of poverty, the provision of full employment, equitable distribution of wealth, and the equality of opportunity and justice.
That's the General Secretary of the Antigua Barbuda Labour Party, Senator Mary Claire Hurst. In other national developments this evening, Prime Minister Gaston Brown says his government will continue to push for the United States government to honor a WTO judgment where it was ordered to compensate Antigua and Barbuda for damages to the local internet gaming sector. The decades-long dispute resulted in a judgment in 2007 where the World Trade Organization arbitration body said the United States violated international trade agreements by preventing Americans to make online wagers. But the long-standing dispute continues without an end in sight. Prime Minister Gaston Brown, whose government has lobbied for an amicable solution on the issue, maintains Antigua and Barbuda should be paid its just due. Acknowledging the negotiations have been difficult, the Prime Minister is holding firm that the United States offer regarding compensation is unacceptable and he is refusing to give in to such treatment.
We are one of the smallest countries on the planet, and we have come up against the superpower, the global superpower, the United States, and as far as they're concerned, they don't have to settle. And if they do settle, as far as they're concerned, we should accept trinkets. And we have taken a position, before we accept trinkets, we prefer not to accept any deal from them. If they come and they offer us a fair deal, in fact, based on our estimation, they was in excess of $200 million. If they offer us something fair, we'll accept. Based on what they've offered us so far, it's perhaps in the region of about, if you have to monetize it, in the region of about, I would say, maybe $2-3 million US. As far as we're concerned, they're not going to treat us with that type of disrespect. We won an arbitral award against them. They destroyed the gaming sector, and the WTO found that they were guilty. They're supposed to be paying us, and they should pay us. So we will continue to take the moral high ground in this, and we'll continue to speak to the issue.
The head of government has recommitted his efforts to continue pressing forward with his demand for the United States to honor their obligation, and he's willing to do so at any cost.
They do not wish to settle, but they continue to tell us that we should not say anything about it. So it's like we're supposed to suffer in silence. I do not accept that. And I know that perhaps my style may not necessarily be welcomed by some, but at least nobody going to take advantage of this country, no matter how powerful they are. And I'm prepared, no matter what they do to me personally, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I have sworn in the parliament of this country to represent the people of this country without fear, and I'll continue to do so. So if they want to take it personal and to deal with me personally, I'm prepared to suffer the consequences. What I do know, provided I remain as Prime Minister of this country, there's no way, nobody, no state, no organization, no entity will be able to take advantage of this country without a pushback.
Prime Minister Gaston Brown. Motorists are being advised of a simulated road closure exercise that will result in road closures this weekend. The Project Implementation Management Unit will conduct the exercise in an effort to begin rolling out a traffic management plan ahead of the commencement of road work under the Road Infrastructure Rehabilitation Project. The simulated road closure exercise will take place from 6 a.m. on Friday, 2nd February to 6 a.m. on Saturday, 3rd February. According to a statement, the section of Fries Hill Road from Cedar Grove Main Road to the junction of Old Pope's Head Road is earmarked as Phase 1 on Fries Hill Road and will be closed for 24 hours. The road closure will allow the Traffic Management Committee, which consists of representatives from the Royal Police Force of Antigua and Barbuda Transport Board, Emergency Services, Ministry of Works and Housing personnel, representatives from the Project Implementation Management Unit, and other officials to assess road user behavior before groundwork begins in mid-February. Public Relations Officer for the Project Implementation Management Unit, Shaun Thomas, said the diversion route for Phase 1 of the project will be Marble Hill Road. He urges road users to be mindful of the fact that a project of such a magnitude will result in some amount of traffic congestion and calls on drivers to avoid parking along byroads or main roads both during the simulation and construction phases. Road rehabilitation work will start on Fries Hill Road, with work on Sir George Walter Highway, formerly Airport Road, to follow soon after. The project is being made possible through grant funding of £13.9 million from the United Kingdom Caribbean Infrastructure Partnership Fund. Oversight is being provided by the Department for International Development. The grant funding is being administered by the Caribbean Development Bank. The government of Antigua and Barbuda has committed $11 million towards the project. Meantime, Thomas is urging business owners operating along Sir George Walter Highway to attend an interactive public stakeholder consultation on Thursday, 8th February at 6 in the evening at the Multipurpose Center to discuss the impact of the planned roadwork on the business community. Citizens of the Dominican Republic resident in Antigua and Barbuda are now without airline services to their country following the grounding of that country's flag carrier, Pointe Dominicana Airlines. The Civil Aviation Department in the Dominican Republic has suspended Pointe's airlines operations due to serious financial issues. According to the Curacao Chronicle, the suspension of the license would be for a period of 3 months to see if the carrier would be able to solve their financial issues. Pointe, in a statement, has described the airline's suspension by the Civil Aviation Department in Santo Domingo as far from supporting the development of commercial aviation in the country, and it harms the growth of the industry and affects thousands of their passengers to whom the airline wants to provide the best possible service. Pointe Dominicana says it has always recognized its obligations with all the authorities, and to be able to fulfill them, the airline must be able to continue flying. The airline is appealing to that country's president and the board of directors of the Civil Aviation Board to reconsider the decision and that they support the airline so that the country can enjoy a stable and efficient Dominican flag airline. The airline says it hopes the provision will be reconsidered and that Pointe Dominicana can continue transporting thousands of Dominicans with the quality that characterizes them to be able to fulfill their obligations. Pointe has noted it will begin reimbursing passengers who have purchased tickets in the coming weeks. The airline commenced twice weekly service to Antigua via St. Martin in 2015. Its grounding will be a major blow to the Hispanic community in Antigua and Barbuda, who welcomed Pointe's schedule after Liat pulled out of Santo Domingo. Just days after announcing that they were offering the public to purchase shares in their company, the management of Observer Media Group has had to withdraw that offer. An intervention from the Eastern Caribbean Securities Regulatory Commission reportedly led to the company removing the website created specifically for members of the public making purchases. Among the reasons, according to reports, is the company's inability to publish its audited accounts, which makes the offer illegal. A warning that was issued a day after by Georgia Derrick, a daughter of one of the founders, the late Winston Derrick. According to reports, Observer Media Group failed to inform potential buyers of the risks involved in purchasing shares and the fact that they were not going to benefit from returns. There has been no response from the company's chief operating officer, Darren Derrick, who announced the sale last week. Darren Derrick is the son of one of the company's founders, the late Samuel Fergie Derrick. Last week, Derrick announced that the estate of Samuel Fergie Derrick was offering for sale the majority of its shares in the two companies. The private placement was for 45,000 shares in each company, which represented 45% of all issued shares in the companies. The Jamaican national, who confessed to being the owner of a firearm and ammunition found in his home last weekend, was fined when he appeared in court today. Shaun McIntosh was ordered to pay $10,000 forthwith or spend 6 months in jail. He was ordered to pay $5,000 for charges of possession of a .25 pistol and $5,000 for possession of 5 rounds of .25 ammunition. The Jamaican national confessed to being the owner of the firearm and several rounds of ammunition discovered in the house on Friday evening. Police say McIntosh was one of 12 persons detained following the raid on the property, where the .25 pistol and 5 matching rounds of ammunition were discovered in a red and white sneaker in a bedroom all 12 occupants of the house were taken into police custody. While being questioned, McIntosh claimed ownership of the illegal items. It was also revealed that the Jamaican national is residing illegally in the country. Friday's raid in campsite involved officers from the CID, Narcotics Division, and the K9 unit. Those are the national developments this Tuesday evening at 14 minutes on the hour of 7 o'clock. The Vincentian Prime Minister is confident his party will defeat a motion of no confidence filed by the opposition, and Volkswagen has taken responsibility for diesel emission tests on humans and monkeys amid mounting fury. We'll have those stories and more in our regional and international segments. Stay tuned. Thank you so much for staying with us. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves says he is confident his ruling United Labour Party administration will defeat a motion of no confidence filed by the opposition when it comes up for debate on Wednesday. Opposition leader Dr. Godwin Friday filed the motion of no confidence just before opposition lawmakers walked out of Parliament on Monday. Monday's parliamentary session meeting included debate on the first estimates of income and expenditure to be presented by Finance Minister Camilo Gonsalves since becoming Minister of Finance last month. Gonsalves made his presentation in the absence of the opposition lawmakers who are protesting his continued silence in an ongoing court matter in which a former 23-year-old model, Yuge Farrell, who is charged with using abusive language to Gonsalves' wife, claimed she and the minister were involved in an extramarital relationship that ended in 2016. The alleged affair came to light after Farrell was hauled before the court on January 5th and then sent to undergo psychiatric evaluation at a mental health center. She has since been released on $1,000 bail and will reappear in court on December 17 this year. The main opposition New Democratic Party has 7 of the 15 seats in the parliament, and the opposition leader on Monday did not comment on the grounds on which opposition lawmakers brought the motion of no confidence. However, according to a copy of the motion circulated to the media, the opposition legislators contend that the Gonsalves government has been failing the people miserably in providing a satisfactory quality of life, and its priorities of the government in its use of taxpayers' money have produced totally inadequate health services and basic maintenance of roads. The motion also states that the collapse of the economy has deprived their youth of hope and employment opportunities, and that there is a climate of fear through intimidation at all levels of Vincentian society. The opposition claimed that the climate of fear has become widespread due to the manifest abuse of the powers of the state of its institutions, which are often employed as weapons against citizens to serve the agenda of government officials, their family members, and associates. Prime Minister Gonsalves told legislators that Tuesday would have been too soon to respond to the motion because lawmakers need to study it to be able to respond, and that the island will be hosting the foreign minister of Taiwan on Thursday. The government must debate the motion within 7 days, and political observers have noted that the government would be minded to get it out of the way before the new finance minister presents his first budget, scheduled for Monday, February 5th. The Dominica government says it will increase the number of employment opportunities under its post-Hurricane Maria job program that goes into operation on March 1st. Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt, speaking on the state-owned DBS radio, said the project is aimed at targeting workers who had been severely affected by the passage of the Category 5 storm last September that left at least 28 people dead and billions of dollars in damages. The government had originally indicated that 1,100 individuals would have been employed under the program, but Skerritt told radio listeners that his administration had agreed to increase the figure by a further 100. He said the government took the decision to ensure that they can maintain the sanity and the dignity of the people who have been affected by the hurricane, so they will be creating those 1,200 jobs. He said he has already approved hundreds of requests for home repairs in many communities across Dominica and have given direction to the Ministry of Housing to make the funds available through the village councils to facilitate home improvement. He said the government has also made a one-time order of importing building materials to assist and not to compete with the private sector. The first 14 days of the current state of public emergency in St. James, Jamaica expires on Thursday, but the House of Representatives is expected to extend the emergency measure when it meets at Gordon House. The emergency was effected that is, on January 18 by way of a proclamation issued by Governor General Sir Patrick Allen. Parliament can extend the emergency for a longer period of up to 3 months, as both the House of Representatives and the Senate may determine by a resolution supported by a two-thirds majority of each house. It means that in addition to the debate in the House of Representatives today, the Senate will have to meet by Thursday if it is to approve an extension of the state of emergency, which would begin right after midnight Thursday. It will depend on the House of Representatives' approval of the extension, which will be piloted or which was expected to be piloted today by the Prime Minister. Both the government and opposition are apparently in agreement for an extension to state of emergency on the basis that action has been taken or is immediately threatened by any person or body of persons of such nature and so extensive a scale as to be likely to endanger the public safety or to deprive the community or any substantial portion of the community of supplies or services essential to life. In announcing the declaration of the state of emergency at Jamaica House on January 18, Prime Minister Andrew Holness noted that crime and violence in particular have been escalating in the parish of St. James, which had 335 homicides last year. Under the state of emergency, the security forces have the power to search, curtail operating hours of business, access to places, and to detain persons without a warrant. Turning now to developments on the international scene, Volkswagen has taken responsibility for diesel emissions tests on humans and monkeys amid mounting fury. Volkswagen Chief Executive Matthias Müller said the German carmaker had taken first consequences for the tests. Here's more in this report.
Press reports over the past week revealed that experiments carried out by EUGT had included exposing both monkeys and human beings to toxic fumes. In his first public comments on the issue, Mr. Müller said the methods used by the research group were unethical and repulsive, and that he was sorry for VW's involvement. The company, which 2 years ago was embroiled in a serious scandal after it admitted cheating in emissions tests, has also suspended its chief lobbyist, Thomas Steg. He admitted knowing in advance about the experiment on monkeys.
It is the blockbuster United States news event of the week, with an estimated 40 million people preparing to tune in to watch U.S. President Donald Trump deliver his first State of the Union address. The keynote speech will be an opportunity for the president to outline his agenda for the next 12 months, shape political policy, and highlight past accomplishments. Here's more.
This is the big political set piece of the year, and by all accounts the President's message is going to be a long way from his pugilistic Twitter persona. Instead, like at Davos last week, Mr. Trump will stay on message, sticking to the words on the teleprompter. It's likely to be conciliatory, an attempt to unify this bitterly divided nation. He'll parade the economic success story of the past year, the growth in GDP, the booming stock market, the decline in unemployment, and the tax cuts. He'll talk about the battle to make the nation safe from outside threats and call for Congress to work in a bipartisan way.
The Argentine president, Mauricio Macri, has announced government job cuts aimed at reducing the deficit and attacking a patronage system in place for decades. Ministers will be forbidden from employing close family, and those currently in posts will have to leave. 1 in 4 positions appointed by ministers will also be cut, and government employees will not receive pay rises this year. The government expects to save $77 million a year with the cuts. Mr. Macri, who has just returned from meeting other world leaders at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, said the government could not be excluded from his austerity drive. Within hours of his announcement, several close relatives of ministers had left their jobs. The new order focuses on national government and does not appear to include local and state levels. On a long list of those expected to leave are the Labour Minister's wife and two sisters, and the Interior Minister's wife and father. There have been years of complaints in the press and in Congress over nepotism in government. Last year, 2 bills were introduced by members of Congress in Argentina, attempting to address the issue and aimed at targeting biased treatment after hiring practices in government. That's a look at regional and international developments this Tuesday evening. Stay with us. The Weather Report is next.
For Antigua and Barbuda. This is valid until 8 p.m. tomorrow, Wednesday, 31st January 2018. A drier and more stable atmosphere has now settled across the area and will continue to linger over and around the islands during the next 24 to 48 hours, thus keeping the chances for shower activity very low during that time. Therefore, we can expect mostly fair skies tonight and mostly sunny skies tomorrow, with a very low chance for showers. The winds will come from between the northeast and east-northeast at 15 to 30 kilometers per hour or 8 to 16 knots with higher gusts over open waters. Sea conditions will remain rough with swells reaching 2.1 to 3.1 meters or 7 to 10 feet. Warnings remain in place for small craft operators and sea bathers against hazardous sea conditions. Rainfall thus far for the month of January remains at 54.4 millimeters or 2.14 inches. Today we recorded a maximum temperature of 28 degrees Celsius or 82 degrees Fahrenheit, and we expect a low tonight of 22 degrees Celsius or 72 degrees Fahrenheit. The sun will rise tomorrow at 6:38 a.m. and set at 6:02 p.m. This is the end of the local weather forecast. I am Bernard Simon for the Antigua and Barbuda Meteorological Services at the VC Bird International Airport.
And so we end Point FM's nightly news for Tuesday, the 30th day of January 2018. Just before we go, a recap of the headlines that made the news. Nationally, the ABLP General Secretary registers her displeasure over comments made by the Works Minister on radio. The Prime Minister refuses to accept what the U.S. is offering in compensation as the WTO case drags on. The Vincentian Prime Minister confident his party will defeat a motion of no confidence filed by the opposition. And Volkswagen has taken responsibility for diesel emissions tests on humans and monkeys amid mounting fury. We thank you so much for tuning in this Tuesday evening. On behalf of all of us here at Point FM, I am Phil George wishing you a pleasant evening, and be sure to join me again tomorrow. Goodbye.